I really like Rudine Bishop's model of text being windows, mirrors, and sliding doors, and that's been her ideas have been around for a long time. I think it was 1990 or so that she published this paper about windows, mirrors, and sliding doors. But I think those are really nice analogies that still resonate today about the importance of literature as an invitation to see the world, as also a way to reflect on ourselves and see how we might see ourselves differently through literature and the literary experience, and also to become part of a world, by opening up those sliding doors and going through to be part of a world that you may not normally be able to experience in your day-to-day life. Working in rural Nova Scotia, that's really an important aspect of literature to my mind, of allowing young people who are traveling on a public school bus for an hour and a half to get to their school, to see the world beyond that scope of beyond the scope of what's available, without any public transportation around. With some students live a very isolated life beyond their schools, other than on the interweb. And so literature allows them to connect and see the worlds that they may not normally have access to. But it's also a way of affirming as well, and to realize that you may not be alone in the world. And in fact, literature can be a companion. If I were to add anything to Rudine Sims Bishop's analogy, I would also say, literature can also be a companion to many of us, and our students, especially when they see either fiction or nonfiction, where there are situations that are where people, characters or lived people have faced adversities, or if they've overcome accessibility issues, or if they are finding themselves alone in where they are living geographically or within a classroom. Literature is an important way for students not only to identify with themselves, but also to feel a belonging in a school setting. And so I think it's really important, therefore, that when we talk about literature for today, and we're trying to put resources in front of students, that students should be able to see themselves in the work in the materials that are available to them.
Oh, Stephen, you probably noticed I was nodding the whole time and saying little ad-libs in there, because it really resonates with me what you had said throughout your answer. And it is things that I had written down while thinking with this question. I think something that I'd add to it, I wrote down that it puts students at the center of instruction, in that it validates and affirms students' identities and gives students from historically marginalized communities an equitable education experience. And then right below there, I also had the mirrors and windows written as well, because it really does offer a space for students to see themselves, but also see such beautiful parts of the world as well. And it allows them to be inspired while also feeling really grounded in themselves and really confident in themselves.
Yeah. I'm very encouraged by a lot of pedagogical approaches that are becoming much more predominant across Canada, such as inquiry-based learning, or universal design for learning, or the use of text sets. All of those kinds of approaches to teaching really encourage a wider range of resources for the teacher to be mindful about, and for students to have choice, for them to have options, and for them to I would almost suggest, take risks in what they're reading or viewing, beyond what their comfort zone might be, because the opportunities before them are maybe much greater than they have been in the past. And I notice this in the trend of what my high school students have preferred increasingly over time is shorter texts rather than longer ones. But I think it's because they want to sample more widely.
Lovely. As soon as you had mentioned different instructional design methods like UDLs or implementing differentiated instruction, and when we use that CRP lens, it comes back to consistently implementing that reflective practice. Because once we are trying to think of implementing diverse tools, shifting it and asking ourselves the question in a way of almost, well, how can cross-cultural understanding and empathy direct the tools that I'm going to use? And then that becomes a responsive act where these materials that we're using are reflective and responsive to the students within our classroom.
I love that. I love one of the things that stood out to me, Stephen, and what you were saying about the windows and doors and mirrors, is the idea that what kind of text will constitute any one of those experiences isn't predetermined. Um, and so as a resource developer, I often run into the challenge or the trap sometimes of, culturally relevant just means reflective of one set of social circumstances or one type of identity or a local view. So that if we're trying to connect with students, say from a rural area, we want to be talking about natural resource development and XYZ. Or, a different set of experiences for an urban student, but that, um, the idea of the mirror can also be about things that are universal human experiences and opening that door up for students so that they can see commonalities in texts that are otherwise maybe not going to seem familiar. And one of the authors we worked with has a kind of an activity that connects, a section of Romeo and Juliet, not a necessarily immediately culturally relevant text, to a really well-known rap song, and kind of connecting them, showing how they're expressing similar types of emotion and inviting students into text that way, so that they're getting, an opportunity to expand what counts as relevant or what counts as a mirror. And I feel like that's such a great opportunity for teachers to have connect with that set of concepts and then realize just how rich it can be, as a way into the unexpected.